Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance still coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Sober Talk. I apologize for those that appreciate Sober Talk. We normally we try to do this every Thursday, but considering the situation of the last near week, I think many of you kind of understand the situation. Sober Talk is designed to help people find sobriety, help some people understand what Alcoholics Anonymous and very closely related NA might be offering. I don't know enough about NA to say, oh yeah, they would do it this way, but I know that between the two programs that we have a lot in common. Um, uh, you know, even our steps are pretty much almost identical. Uh, but now that I've kind of said all that, this is also designed for the family members that are fairly new in, you know, they've got a loved one that's in need of sobriety, help from Alcoholics Anonymous. Maybe their loved one's ready, maybe their loved one isn't. But it's kind of along those lines. Now, for a while now, we've been reading out of the big book, and I know where we're at, but tonight, considering the developments of everything going on, I felt it was necessary to talk about the fact that some of us in AA end up with serious mental health issues. And I wanted to address that. We started kind of addressing it last week, but we're definitely going to address it this week. And there's pamphlets and everything that AA does provide. No question about that. However, that doesn't mean that those pamphlets kind of give you the face to face of what people need to know. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And normally in something like this, I would like to do a video, maybe have some handout sort of stuff that we could refer to. But I feel it's best if you just hear it from the heart. Um, so that's kind of the gist of it. Um, so I welcome everyone for this. We're going to get kicked off here pretty soon. But that's kind of the gist of tonight because considering the situation where, my wife went off the deep end, uh, drinking, drugs, and suffers from serious mental health issues, you would almost think the two are almost, one's causing the other, but not always. Not always. Okay. The two can mess up one or the other, the issues can mess up one or the other. That's kind of common knowledge. But we're going to talk a little bit about it, and I'll be talking about my own personal experiences in dealing with mental health because I am not exempt. Okay. There's an old saying in AA that the word yet means you're eligible too. And I suffer from PTSD. So here in just a bit, we'll talk a little bit about my experiences in dealing with PTSD, flashbacks, and things like that, as it pertains to my sobriety, so you guys can get kind of a deeper understanding because mental health is not a joke; it is a real situation, and growing up dealing with mental health issues growing up dealing with mental health issues has always been, you know, this world is far from getting it right. Okay, it's far from getting it right. Um, so that is the hope that by the end of this stream today, that we have a deeper understanding of mental health issues as it pertains to alcoholism and drug addiction, or chemical dependency, if you want to lump the two together. Um, There's also a couple of things that we also need to kind of get out of the way too, when talking about this sort of thing. Uh, that AA has done its part and even understood mental health issues long before anybody else did. Back in the day, AA really understood mental health issues, and we'll even talk a little bit about that. We're eventually going to be reading it in the book, but for right now, this is kind of the gist of it. You know, so right now it's kind of slow to take off. It's a Friday night, but I know for a lot of folks, you know, this is kind of one that we've talked about, but I guess I didn't feel I did a good enough job. Hoping that when I do it tonight, that we really nail it on the head. Okay, so we're hoping to kick this off here pretty soon. And I'm going to give it to a few more minutes yet before we start getting into the tough stuff on this. I didn't even bother to grab my book. There's no sense in grabbing it on this because a lot of the stuff. I mean, AA is very open about the fact that they do respect mental health issues. Um, I will also say that I will throw in some stuff that isn't necessarily AA, but you'll understand too. Okay, just personal experience. Again, because I suffer from PTSD myself, and how I got it. I was diagnosed at 16. Okay, and honestly, if I hadn't had that happen, those things happen, it probably wouldn't have shot me through my alcoholism so quickly, and I'd probably just now be getting sober, maybe. But again, we'll just give it a couple more minutes, give everyone a chance to kind of make their way in for sober talk, and I'm really just hoping that it's a good turnout, good positive turnout. Again, we're talking that this is trying to um, get down to what people need to understand. And again, with current events, I think it's high time we talk about this and talk about it a little bit more in depth than I have felt I should have. So, um, we'll wait till about the 10-minute marker, and then we'll kick this off proper. Um, so the first thing that I need you all to understand is that Alcoholics Anonymous has always been fully aware that there have been mental health issues, and you will hear in some meetings, you'll hear some old timers say, "We're not doctors, we're not practitioners," that sort of thing. We're not this, we're not that. You know, we have professionals in AA, and sometimes we may even offer our professional opinion um, to someone. But other than that, we don't play that part because that's not the setting that we're supposed to be doing that in. As a matter of fact, to give you guys an idea, at this one AA area assembly for the eastern half of the state of Missouri, I actually heard a guy get up, and he was a lawyer, and basically give, his legal opinion on something, understanding laws and things like that. He gave his legal opinion on something because because there was a lot of people concerned about some stuff. What's happening, J Dog? You're the first one to say anything. Right now, it seems a little quiet for the kickoff. You know, So right now, as it stands, tonight we're going to be kind of talking about how mental health and sobriety are super important. Um, so again, I'm going to stress that even though, oh, you have autism? Wow. My oldest daughter has autism, ironically enough, J Dog. My oldest daughter's been diagnosed with autism, severe autism. And she's to a degree, okay, yeah, she's one that she would be right up there with uh, like the guy from the movie Rain Man. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. What's happening, Chairman? You guys are the first ones to say anything. So to kind of give you guys an idea, so you understand it, okay. And when I talk mental health, I'm not just talking about the usual suspects of depression and things like that. I'm talking even mental disabilities as well, because all of these things have to be addressed. So mental well-being, AA has been on top of for many years. Okay. I don't remember, but I know Tom Cruise played in it, and the guy who played his brother, Raymond, was really just it was an amazing movie. I think if you honestly and truthfully seen it, you would really love it. But if you ever get a chance, watch the movie Rain Man. It's an amazing movie. Um, they even used like a 1953 Oldsmobile in it. I think it was an Oldsmobile. It might have been a Buick. And a gorgeous, gorgeous ride. It's beautiful looking convertible 53. And just gorgeous ride. Oh, beautifully restored. I often wonder whatever happened to that car. So, all right. So, everybody, I imagine more folks will make their way in. So, with today's sober talk, it obviously pertains to some of the facts that Princess Bay is not mentally well. So, in a roundabout way, we're kind of addressing that. Okay. Alcoholics Anonymous, all the way back in our early days, understood the fact that mental health was an issue then, even before folks openly admitted that, and for a long time, mental health has always had kind of a stigma about it. Like if you if you suffered from severe depression or PTSD or something like that, well, you were weak. There was something wrong with you. You're crazy. And calling someone crazy nowadays doesn't mean what it used to mean. So back when I was a lot younger, if you called somebody crazy, it was an insult, you know. Hey, what's happening, Tails? Welcome to the live stream. So when I say today that that AA had their finger on the pulse of mental health even back then, they really did. In I can understand that. It would be one that I would still suggest, even despite religious beliefs, because the rating system back then was a little bit more strict than it would be today. That's why I would still recommend it for you, because we're talking 1980s. We're talking 1980s, and 1980s was very strict as far as the rating system went back then. Now we've gotten a lot more lax today, so what might be rated R, uh, actually, to give you an idea, what was rated R back in the 1980s would be something like PG-13 now. Okay. And what would be rated R now wouldn't even be allowed to have anything but an X rating today. Uh, back today's rated R would have like a serious X rating back in the 1980s in a lot of ways. Um, just because we've gotten more lax today. So if that's any indication, so that's why I would even still recommend it to you. Remember, it's a different time frame we're almost talking about. So can't find Ian's Discord. I'll help you out, sis. Don't worry about that. But you guys get the general gist of it. Okay. So we're talking 19, when you talk about a movie like that in 1980s terms. Okay. So now we've kind of, put that all together and everything. AA has, again, in in the original printing of the big book, and it's still there today, it literally says we do not belittle a doctor or a practitioner. Their services are often indispensable in treating a newcomer and following their case afterwards. And that's pretty close to word for word. I don't think it's spot on, but it'll be close. So, why is this important? Because of the fact that some of us do suffer from some sort of emotional, something deep rooted. What's happening, Zero? A lot of us end up suffering from a lot of this stuff. I am no exception. At the age of 16, I had a counselor had to sit down with my dad and say, "Look, your son is never going to be, never going to fully live a normal life. He suffers from PTSD." And my dad had to say, like the Vietnam veterans. And exactly, exactly. And see, in the 1990s, 1995 to be exact, when I was diagnosed with PTSD, that was fairly new. It had been almost unheard of anyone of, outside of the military being diagnosed with any form of PTSD. Um, I still suffer the night terrors. I suffer the extreme mood swings. Extreme mood swings. There are times that I will go into severe depression and I don't know why. Now, mental health back even in the 1990s was kind of in its infancy. Um, well, you get the idea. Well, they still, today, they still separate the two. PTSD is still considered PTSD. Yeah. So they've now even got a category specifically for those who served who have PTSD. It's they added another initial basically. And in my case, see, we know it as post traumatic stress disorder today, but it used to be post traumatic stress syndrome, is what it used to be called when I was diagnosed. Okay. And they just changed the initials. Well, today, now they have those that suffer trauma. Those are the ones that suffer from PTSD. That, civilians that have had trauma and they're stuck with it. And then they have where the veterans. So in that regard, so when I speak from personal experience, in my particular case, um, about the time I was a year sober, you know, the reality of my PTSD became a problem. I didn't have the money to afford counselors and all that. I couldn't afford it because I had an ex that was eating up all my money doing drugs herself. Okay. Twice in the same lifetime, right? So you know, uh, for me, going through this again probably shouldn't shock me. Just the way it is. I guess I'm drawn to that type of person. Um, Even though I may not drink, doesn't mean that I don't evidently end up with ones that have that problem, the same problem as me. Um, just kind of how it is. So now that we've kind of narrowed that down a little bit and understanding that, it was actually AA members that had went through Vietnam that taught me how to live with my PTSD. Now, it doesn't mean that when things happen, when I have the night terrors and things like that, that I don't have to rely, I have to, I have to dig for those tools. And when I have them, I still have where there's maybe a day or two where I feel a little off. Okay. So if y'all understand what I'm saying, um, when I have a night terror, I will be kind of off. L-wits. Just take meds. For some of us, taking the meds is actually not a good thing. And I will repeat something that you know I will repeat something that is very important. We're not doctors here, okay? Don't just assume that that's no, okay? So unless you're a doctor, don't be practicing medicine here, okay? Um, and even if you are a doctor, you know, I ask that you practice medicine in the proper settings, okay? There are laws here in the United States that say that that offering advice like that, you're practicing medicine without a license. So be very careful there. And that brings me to something that does happen sometimes still in AA meetings. We'll have someone that I've been struggling with sobriety, and I went and seen a psychiatrist, and now I'm on the right medications. Well, that's wonderful. Okay. They're getting the help they need because the big book is very clear about that. We don't belittle a doctor or a practitioner. As a matter of fact, yeah, we were way ahead of that curve. All the way back in the 1930s. Now, again, mental health stuff, honestly and truthfully, to give you an idea, for severe depression cases, uh, in the 1990s, I knew that for extreme cases, we were still using electroshock therapy. Actually, met a man while I was hospitalized at the age of 16. He's like, guys, get yourselves taken care of, when it comes to your depression. Now, he said, you'll end up like me. And he was sitting in a wheelchair, could barely walk because his body would not function because of the extreme depression he was going through. And in order for him to be able to function, he had to have electroshock therapy. And basically, the medicines hadn't caught up to the field yet. And that was even in the 1990s. So, so that's why I will tell everyone that AA has always been very, very adamant about that. But every once in a while, you will find an old timer. Oh, you don't need that. You don't need that. You're practicing medicine without a license. And even if you are a doctor, you're not in the right setting. You don't know their full case. Their entire full case is better to be, behind closed doors if you understand the HIPAA laws. So this is actually some issues that sometimes does come up in AA meetings where you have to sometimes pull even an old timer aside. And I'm now an old timer in AA, technically speaking. I'm now in the old timer status. But I'm one of those ones that I read the book solid enough. But every once in a while, you find some that have got, 30, 40, and now in some cases, all the way up to 50 years that forget that part. And you have to pull them aside and say, look, you are not equipped to have this discussion with them. Okay? Please do not do that again because you're now practicing medicine without a license. And the big book is very clear on things that we're supposed to be doing. Okay? We do not belittle a doctor or a practitioner. If they need that medication, then obviously, you know, if it is working for them and they're staying sober, then, we're taking into consideration mental health issues. There's actually another line in the big book, and we just read this in one of the last readings, where quite legitimately we were reading, and it says that there are those too who suffer from grave emotional mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. And this even goes being honest with doctors, counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, you name it, okay? And as a matter of fact, there is even a long-standing story in AA that was originally told by a Dr. Father Martin, who did the original Chalk Talk, and he was so instrumental in his Chalk Talk segments that he did. And the original Chalk Talk still makes its way around AA meetings, even though it's not conference approved material. Um, he really took a lot of information from a doctor and what happens if you ever get a chance. Some of the segments are actually here on YouTube, and I definitely recommend anyone uh, who doesn't fully understand alcoholism, look up those segments of Chalk Talk. Okay, absolutely amazing, amazing stuff right here on YouTube, and it is definitely worth your time, um, without question. Okay, Chalk Talk is has been instrumental in a lot of ways. Um, no, chat's working. It's just kind of a slow night. It's Friday night, and I'm talking sobriety. Everyone's getting ready to head out and have a party. Hey, what's happening? Think different. I'm seeing yours come up. I'm seeing your stuff come up. Elwitz, I'm gonna put it to you like this. I am not a witch burner when it comes to drinking alcohol. No one poured it down my throat. I did it to myself. But there are those too who have alcoholic problems that fall in a trap like I did. Mm, okay. So this is for people who suffer from alcoholism, drug addiction, and those two are mental illnesses. Those have been treated as mental illnesses by the federal government. Okay. So be very careful what lines you cross on this channel, because we do take these matters very serious. And this channel does recognize mental illness on all levels, including treating alcoholism as a mental illness. So I will remind you to be respectful of those who suffer from alcoholism, drug addiction, and other forms of mental illness here on this channel. That will be your last warning, my friend. Okay? Treat it treat this as it is. Okay? You're not a doctor, and if you have no experience with alcoholism or drug addiction, still understand that it does exist. Because let me tell you, folks, okay, I have had good friends die from this stuff. True story. I met a guy that was about 3 months sober and had been in and out of AA for years. And this guy was amazing, had an amazing story. But he would end up and every time he turned around, he always ended up in treatment centers. And finally, I was like, why? Why do you keep doing this to yourself? You have such an amazing story. Just why? What do you need? What do you need from me, maybe? And he's like, I don't know. And he was sitting there telling me in this treatment center, I was there as the speaker. And he was sitting there telling me that he couldn't stay sober, that he kept falling off the wagon. Uh, he didn't understand it. He may have been suffering from some form of mental illness. We don't know. He never sought out professional help for it. Now, maybe if he had and gotten the nuts and bolts tightened down, he would still be here today because as he was in that treatment center, he actually told me, doctor says if I don't stop, I'm not going to make it. No joke. 2 months later, they found him dead. He couldn't stop. Bottle right beside him. For all we know, he could have been dealing with that. He could have been dealing with one of those grave emotional and mental disorders that we just didn't know. And if he might have sought out professional help, this might have been a different story. But they found him dead. We don't know. We may never know. But I know that this world lost an amazing person. Do you have a schizophrenic friend? My grandmother that passed away last year suffered from schizophrenia for many years, and we started seeing the medication get better in the 90s. But it wasn't until in recent years she actually started living somewhat of a normal life. But by then, dementia had started taking over. So by the time the medicine had actually caught up to her, you know, really, that sucks. Wow. And see, again, folks, there's no shame in mental illness, and there's no shame in drug addiction. There's no shame in alcoholism. Okay, it's a shame what people will do to themselves in this whole mess, but there is no shame in it. There is none. Okay. Now, for me, I mean, I have been fortunate enough to get people who help me to live without the medication. Yep. But here's the thing, there are times that even I probably need more than just, what I've got available to me, but I'm comfortable with what I've got available to me. As the medications are getting better, there will come a time that my PTSD may eventually get to the point where I will have to be on the right medications, but we're not there yet. Now, I'm grateful that the mental health community has gotten better as time has continued on. Hey, what's happening, Raven? So because of my of what I've experienced with PTSD, when it gets out of hand, it does become hard to stay sober. Okay, because anybody who suffers from PTSD will tell you that. Yeah, I've heard of him using. I've got my big cat Taver, who continues to take care of me when I have my flashbacks. He stays very close to me. So, I know we talked about, certain drugs, and some people don't think that certain drugs are that bad, but here's the thing. Yeah, I've heard of Wellbutrin having that ability to help people quit smoking and abuse. They've given to extreme cases of alcoholism. Um, I'm doing about as well as you can expect right now, Raven, with everything else going on, and then the recent loss of my grandmother. I'll be honest with you, it's the body is basically telling me you need to rest. So I've spent a lot of time resting. I'll eat a little something, but I spend a lot of time resting right now. I've been smoking a lot during certain times of the day, but other than that, I'm still using the my vape pen pretty heavily. So, I don't know. Oh, um, We got to holler at that later. I would. There was no. There was no. It was one of those things. There was still, there's some animosity in our family. We'll put it that way. So I'm like, I'm out of this. I'm out of this. You know. But here's the real deal, folks. You know, the reality of it all is um, that AA has always been on the cusp of that. Yeah, no joke. Well, my family likes to put the fun in dysfunctional. I'll just leave it there. Kind of leave that there. So, the last few days, you all have heard me talk about, have heard me talk about, how, um, you know, yeah, yeah, no joke. Has heard me talk about, um, the whole thing with, you know, Princess Faye's serious manic depression, and I didn't realize it was to the point where it was. And then adding in chemical dependency. What's happening, Dan? Welcome to the live stream. So, adding in the chemical dependency that Princess Faye has been experiencing with this, everything's starting to add up. Everything's starting to make sense. Now, let me again remind you, fully untreated manic depression, like we're describing here, and again, when you're talking PTSD, I suffer the depression and the mood swings and the things like that, and I've been fortunate enough I don't need medicine just yet. But as time goes on, you can add more trauma to that PTSD. As a matter of fact, I even have flashbacks of some of the treatment from some of the ex-girlfriends that I've had. Yeah, that's actually a thing. So you add in those traumas, you can keep piling it on, okay? So for right now, it's probably even safe to say that I'm even going to have more additional trauma from this experience being tacked on, because of the fact that this has been very traumatic for me. It's probably even safe to say that I'm experiencing that more and more as this progresses. So Prince Magnum's even going to need nuts and bolts tightened down after this, and there's even an excellent chance that I may actually have to. Mhm. That by the end of all of this, I too will probably need medication, and without that medication, I won't be able to stay sober. Why is that? Because we're talking mental health. Mental health, to give you guys an idea, the state of Missouri still treats alcoholism as a mental disorder. For the most severe cases of alcoholism, we're talking the extreme cases. Um, you can, well, it is, yeah, it is. Um, Not yet, not yet. Hmm. Y'all, this is sober talk. You're not late until I'm giving the final words. The final lines of the get together. And we'll see. There's still a lot of misunderstanding about alcoholism and drug addiction. Okay, there's still, oh, just quit drinking. Oh, just quit drinking. Oh, just quit doing drugs. It's not that simple. We have to seek some sort of help. Okay. Now, in the professional community, they have always treated AA and NA as group therapy. And I could see where that would fit in. Mm, real quick, Dan. Oh, really quick. You guys hear me talk about him. Oh, don't run off, buddy. Come here. Oh, he's shy. He's my big fat cat. I'll see if I can corner him for a quick second. But you guys hear me talk about my emotional support animals. Here he is. Oh, you're going to stand up big and tall for us? This is my emotional support cat, Taver. Yep. He's my emotional support cat that takes care of me. Sorry about that. We had a little buffering. I'm not 100%. We could be having a storm move into the area. It looks like it's possible. But he takes care of me when I suffer my flashbacks. He helps take care of me. When the flashbacks happen when I'm just walking around the apartment, he takes care of me. He's very instrumental in my well-being. So without him, I would not be able to do as well as I do. So I have an emotional support animal, and that's him. He takes care of me all the time. Matter of fact, because it's just the body's wearing out and everything, and I'm suffering from what I suffer. Well, hello there, Zelda. He takes care of me. He's been laying with me, trying to make sure I'm okay today. Well, but here's the thing, okay? Um, I know down here in Missouri, they even treat gambling the same as drug and alcohol addiction here in Missouri. So this is where Missouri is actually getting on par. If a casino down here, oh, hey, what's going on, Nat? No, you're not late. You're not late at all. Um, we're going to be, we're talking about mental health issues today in Sober Talk. And so, in a nutshell, again, AA has always had its finger on the pulse. I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. So, again, it's super important that a lot of you all remember that well, I even know up there in Montana that if you see three or more Native Americans gathered, it's considered a war party. Okay, that's not a joke. That's in Montana still. When I heard that, I was like, "What? What?" So it's even safe to say that even after this experience, one way or the other, that even Prince Magnum, oh wow, but Missouri is not without its goofy laws that don't add up. Give you an idea. Do you know it's illegal to drive with a live bear in the backseat of your car here in the state of Missouri? That's not a joke. Okay, I want y'all to think about that a moment. Some idiot had to do it. Drive with a live bear in the back of his car. How the hell did you even get a bear in the back of your car? Just what the Missouri, we are screwed up. Right now, I know there's a lot of people just laughing. It's just like, why? Why? But anyhow, let's get back on topic. So again, with the original printing of the big book, and now the first, we always say in AA the first 164 pages, but it goes more than that. The preface, the forward to the first edition, um, the doctor's opinion, uh, the uh, the 164 pages in the big book, and then Dr. Bob's story and Alcoholics Anonymous number 3, his story, which his name was actually Bill Dotson. Um, those stories, those pages have not changed in forever. Okay, they've not changed in forever. Now, with the third edition, this is not a joke. You guys will be shocked about this. What's going on, QV? Welcome to the live. Um, there was a story about an actual doctor in Alcoholics Anonymous that fell into the pit and trappings of not just alcohol, but drugs too. And originally, he was called, his story in the third edition was referred to as Dr. Alcoholic Addict. Not a joke. But then for the fourth edition that was released in 2000, the edition that I'm very familiar with, they changed his story and kept it in there, calling it Acceptance is the Key. Now, they tried to keep it as close to the original spot in the third edition as much as possible. Now, that being said, you know, AA has always been on the cusp of mental health for a long time. Again, there are two lines that refer to this. That number one, it says there are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. QV, that's something that we'll just have to kind of get y'all to the side and talk a little bit about. There was a big issue that kind of happened, and I'm not sure what's going to happen from there. Okay, there was a big thing that kind of happened the other night, and it got serious. Okay, so with tonight's topic, yes. Sometimes you have to get honest with yourself and seek out actual professional help in order for you to stay sober. So when I talked about Princess Faye with her depression and then taking, self-medicating, well, these are, a doctor would have to be the one to prescribe, certain medications, and even with the stigma of certain medications, it might have been beneficial, but she was self-medicating with stuff uh, that she didn't have a prescription for. Okay, on top of drinking and everything else. So everything that we're seeing is a result of. Now, it would be the same way as if I started doing it. It would react with my PTSD in ways that you can't even imagine. There are still things that, when it comes to medications, we're still learning. And this is one of the reasons why that I know the pharmaceutical companies like to do the advertisements. Oh, I got that too. And then they're getting there asking their doctors, and doctors, see dollar signs sometimes. But there are still good doctors out there that it's like, no, this is the medication you probably need to be on because this works more better for this. And they stay on the cusp of it. Folks, those doctors still exist. And thank God they do. Um, you'll find that you'll find these you have to find these doctors and you have to seek their help. Well, that doesn't mean you can't go to, she can't refer to you to another doctor. Hang on a second. There we go. And so there's that whole thing where we have to, again, we're back to the importance of taking mental health into consideration. Now, again, there are still some of us old timers that occasionally will be in a meeting and someone will talk about going to get professional help for mental disorders. Oh, really? Yeah, it sounds like your state's a little bit behind the time, but that does make a little bit of sense considering their induction into the union, if you will, because they were a territory for a good long time. So that actually makes a little sense. Folks, Civil War did have more of an impact than we think, and that's definitely a subject for another time. So you'll sometimes still hear that this day and age. So if you're fairly new to Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, and you have a, you're seeing a professional to help you with your Missouri still requires as they say, the green card, which that is not what a green card is. Um, in essence, AA, sometimes you have to pull these certain old timers aside. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes you have to pull aside some of these old timers, and you have to tell them, "Hey, straight up, man, you're not a doctor, and even if you are, you know, you're practicing medicine outside of the proper settings. This is not right. So don't do that. You don't know their full case, and respect the big book." All right, QV, good to see you, brother. So that is the gist of it, okay? If you will. Again, AA has always, and we even release pamphlets. Now, that's not to say that at some point in somebody's sobriety, you might actually see that they're going to a quack, okay? And what I'm talking about going to a quack, maybe they were struggling with the mental health aspect of it all. Maybe they're struggling, and they're going into that mire of alcoholism and drug addiction, and you could see that it's because they're not getting the proper medications, and maybe they do still suffer from some sort of mental disorder, but the doctor's giving them something that is potentially dangerous to them, and it's causing them to constantly relapse. At that point, the smart thing to do is to recommend them to get a second opinion, and that is still legal here in the United States. Um, and and suggesting someone maybe get a second opinion is always a good idea, and anymore nowadays, I do suggest that people, nowadays, because certain doctors may be a little bit more in tune than other doctors, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion, okay? If you feel a little uncomfortable, maybe there's something about the whole sobriety thing. You got to take that into account. And maybe you don't feel that doctor is fully understanding that you're suffering from mental health issues and things like that. It is suggested nowadays that maybe you should. Right. And sometimes, and unfortunately, again, today, you also have to take, right. You have to take into account that in some cases nowadays, some folks, um, you know, be smart. It's your sobriety, okay? Just be smart about it. And so when I say to you all that AA has always taken into consideration, we have. It's just that sometimes some of the old timers, you sometimes have to pull them aside. And as a matter of fact, I remember one distinct meeting. There was this one old timer. Somebody started talking how they had to seek out professional help because they. Okay, so yeah. Sometimes some of them have a way overcharged rate. Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me. We don't know what loans they still may have out, that sort of thing. So let me give you all kind of an interesting bit of food for thought, if you will. When it comes to, again, mental health, I actually heard in an AA meeting, um, and the old timer in question, I have a great deal of respect for, but um, he actually said in a meeting, because somebody was talking about how they were struggling to stay sober. So they went and got, they went and got a psychiatrist, and they were starting to feel better. The medicine was working, and they were looking forward to begin working the steps. So to me, this is perfect. Okay, this is perfect. This is 110% right on. And hey, what's going on, Mike G? So when this happened, what ends up happening next is it comes around to the old timer, and he started sitting there saying, "Oh, you'll never get sober as long as you're, going to that doctor." And I mean, he started putting his opinion in there, and it was not a professional opinion. It was just him, you know, knocking and not taking into account that there are two, those who suffer from grave emotional mental disorders. Uh, you know, Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Mikey G, but I hope you get feeling better pretty soon. I hope you're getting, I know you're getting there, but I hope you get there a lot quicker. So what ends up happening is, um, you know, I heard this and it came around to me, and I grabbed my big book. Well, it's just one of those things. But it was really, when it came around to me, I grabbed my big book. I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there with everything going on with Princess Faye and the loss of my grandmother. Um, I'm breathing in and breathing out. That's the best I can tell you right now. I know, I know at some point after the live stream, I'm probably going to see about something to eat. But right now, I'm exhausted. My body's basically telling me you've had all you can handle. I'm hanging in there. But I felt that tonight we needed to really cover the whole mental health thing. So again, folks, oh, I didn't see it zero, but I haven't really been on Discord all that much today. I'll have to get over there and get a look at it. Thank you. Thank you for that. So here we are now. Okay. We're trying to, put this, trying to help everyone to understand that, sometimes there's old timers that'll say this, and, same meeting. I turned around and I picked up my big book and I said, I think sometimes we forget that this is in our big book. Oh, awesome. I said, and I opened to how it works. I said, one of the most read, but oftentimes ignored things in an AA meeting. Yeah. And I said, and I read it. There are those there are those two who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. I flip further in the book, and matter of fact, that was almost bad. Almost dumped coffee. I have a copy right here. I keep a copy in just about every part of the room in case I need to refer to it. And it's on page what? Oh, someone's going live. Around the 130 spot. Okay. And I actually read this out in a meeting. Now about health. A body badly burned by alcohol does not often recover overnight, nor does twisted thinking and depression vanish within a twinkling. We are convinced that a spiritual mode of living is a most powerful health restorative. We who have recovered from serious drinking are miracles of mental health. See, even AA was already realizing, already realized that mental health was an issue. But we have seen remarkable transformations in our bodies. Hardly one of our crowd shows any mark of dissipation. But does this mean that we disregard human health measures? God has abundantly supplied this world with fine doctors, psychologists, and practitioners of various kinds. Do not hesitate to take your health problems to such persons. Most of them give freely of themselves that their fellows may enjoy sound minds and bodies. Try to remember that though God has wrought miracles among us, we should never belittle a good doctor or psychiatrist. Their services are often indispensable in treating a newcomer and in following his case afterwards. Right here in the big book, wrote in the 1930s. Folks, that should probably blow everyone's mind. Okay? So, right there, we already knew that there were issues that went far beyond what AA has to provide. And I had to actually say that in read that in the meeting where this old timer was basically, taking shots at a newcomer that couldn't stay sober. And when they seen a psychiatrist, they felt they got the help that they needed. Yes, yes. So the fact that they were also already, deep into, dealing, so the fact, yeah, 1930s that they were already saying this should already tell you that the awareness was real. And it took many years for the medications to actually start catching up to us. Now, am I saying that the medications are perfect right now? With everything that I have listened to, because I still talk to, even though I'm retired from the medical field myself, and I was one of the professionals in that community, I will tell you that many people feel that we're getting there, but we're not as close as we should be. Um, I know that the more and more I've talked with some, that there's still work to be done in the psychology area as well. We're still learning a lot there as well. So we're dealing a lot still with, uh, there's still a lot more to grow, but we knew that even back then. So AA was already on that cusp. Now, this is a little known thing that most people do not realize. Okay. And I'm going to blow you guys' mind. Co founder Bill W. Okay. He wrote the big book, and, but he never actually worked the steps right away. What ended up happening is in the 1940s, Bill W. suffered a severe bout of depression. Now, in his bout of depression, yep, that subjects for years as a kid. As he was suffering his bout of depression, um, the group that he was involved with, that he started in New York, said, Bill, you've worked, you may have wrote the steps, but you've never actually worked those steps. Maybe it's high time you do it. Well, Bill didn't listen. And instead, he wrote the 12 steps and 12 traditions. And what we sometimes in AA call the 12 and 12, or the 12 by 12. But the depression continued. It would get to the point where he couldn't physically get out of bed because his depression was so much. But finally, someone pushed him, and he did sit down with someone. He sat down with someone from the Catholic Church. And this goes to show that you could do this with just about anybody. Spiritual advisor, he sat down with a Catholic priest and did his 12 steps, and he did recover from his depression. So, that should be something to kind of tuck away, if you will. Okay. So again, he, if you will, I know sometimes, the 12 steps gets lumped into the world of psychology as well sometimes. So that was what it took. Now, he never suffered another bout of depression. That doesn't mean he didn't suffer from other stuff, but that was the thing he ended up doing. But is that going to always be the case for everybody? The answer is no. No. Some people are, it depends nowadays, you know. Um, what are you doing, sweetie? So that is just an example of where the steps worked, okay? And but there are those of us that we end up needing more professional help, and the big book already covered it, you know. And there's been pamphlets that have been released um, dealing with this through AA. And as a matter of fact, one of them says, that there are times that a doctor really, you have to seek out a second opinion. There are those that maybe, the medication is causing you to relapse, so you'll need that second opinion. But if you think you need to see a doctor, there is not a one of us in AA that should tell you otherwise if you need to see a doctor for mental health issues. So, again, when I tell you guys that, hey, you know, AA was already on the cusp of this long time ago. We don't disregard human health measures, and that includes mental health disorders. Because as that was put there for a reason. That was put there for a reason because even then, we were still, the best we had was Sigmund Freud, which Sigmund Freud, the father of modern day psychology, we're still learning more. And even with PTSD, like I suffer, you goober, look at you. Even like PTSD, like I suffer, we're still learning more. And as time goes on, the medications are getting better. Again, back in the 1990s, you were considered less than, you were considered weak if you had mental health issues. You were still considered weak by some if you suffered from alcoholism or drug addiction. But times have changed. We now understand more now than ever before that these are real issues that the medical field is still taking into consideration. And the medications are slowly getting better. Now, I really wish that I could tell you all that we snap a finger and it all goes away, but we're not there yet. And I know that even after this, the trauma that even my own wife has put me through, that I may end up needing medication, that I may be so severe that being in a work environment may even be potentially dangerous to myself and the people around me. That because I will tell you that that it has gotten easier to do the day to day stuff, not being at work. Okay, kind of like I need almost like it's getting harder to be around people because of my PTSD, because I still suffer from the horrible mood swings. And I will even tell you, yes, sweetie, I see you. I still suffer from those moments where I have almost uncontrollable fits of rage and I don't know what's going on with me. Okay. Oh, are you going to get on camera for everybody, Zelda? Are you going to? Here, come here, sweetie. Your public wants to see you. I'm probably going to end up needing nuts and bolts tightened down. It's just the facts. Okay. Now, am I comfortable with that? I can live with that as long as I'm able to stay sober. You know, even one of the things that they recommend for a group conscience. For some of the groups, they'll send out stuff. Are we taking this into consideration, sort of thing? Are we looking at this? Are we looking at that? One of the things that has come up in recent years: are we taking into consideration of mental health? And I actually, in that group conscious meeting, I said, from personal experience, I feel this group is very open about mental health issues. And I said, I suffer from PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. I said, I don't talk about it a whole lot. I said, because sometimes it's just not best to always talk about these things around the tables. Um, and I said, but if the subject comes up, I know you guys will treat this with the utmost respect. I said, so this is one of these times that I feel that I said it's important in this setting for me to be open and honest with you all. And I will also say to newcomers, don't just sit around the tables and talk about your mental health issues. You're there to also talk about your problems with alcohol. Or if you're in an NA meeting, talk about your problems with drug addiction. You know, that should be your main focus because that's why you're there. Now, if it is pertinent to the subject of how you need more, if it's pertinent to the subject, be smart about it. Okay, be wise about it. I think all this goes without saying. So be sharp about these things. Okay, without question. You know, I'm not saying don't talk about it. I'm saying know when it's the right time to talk about it. All right. So maybe there's someone new and you could maybe see something about them. There you go. Maybe you could see something about them um, that you have experienced yourself, or maybe they're saying a certain, not necessarily talk about it in a meeting, but you might corner them afterwards and say, have you considered maybe seeing a professional because you may be experiencing more? And then you can refer to that spot in the big book and say, you're not less than. Maybe it's time you see a professional and see if there isn't other grave emotional and mental disorders. Maybe it's time to be honest with yourself. If the professional thinks that you're doing right by coming to Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, you know, so give them that, explaining to them that that is another avenue to help them, then by all means do it. I'm in the same boat, you know. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, completely understand, Zero. Oh, you're still. Thank you for that. Thank you. So, you know, in reference to everything that's been going on, I know some people have said some nasty things about my wife Miranda, but here's the truth of it. Okay, um, she's not well. Okay, she is mentally. She's mentally sick. She's sick. Okay, she's not well. She's suffering from drug addiction, alcoholism, chemical dependency, if you want to just lump it into one. And she's suffering from a severe form of depression, a manic and depression stage. And I actually had to seek out a professional and ask them their opinion. Okay? So, with her doing what she's doing, without question, we need to remember to stay supportive. This is one of the reasons why I did this stream tonight. Okay, this goes far beyond just what AA or NA can do. This goes deep. Okay, and for the record, she was seeing a professional. I think they started to actually catch on to her drug addiction, and she stopped. Okay, she stopped. What's going on? Ching Chong song. Okay, well, welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the live stream song. Welcome. We're slowly beginning to wind down for the evening, but again, we're kind of talking about, how AA and NA have always been on the cusp of mental health issues, and this has a lot to do with the fact that even I suffer from PTSD. So we've talked a lot about that tonight. There's a lot of stuff that we did go over, and I would definitely recommend uh, going through the playback and watching a lot of it because there's a lot of information in here from personal experience dealing with mental health disorders and sometimes how mental health issues cross over into the world of chemical dependency. So I definitely recommend you do that. Definitely watch a lot of this particular stream because we all have loved ones who suffer from mental disorders, and we also have a lot of loved ones who are chemical dependents, alcoholics, and addicts. And I don't know since I've never seen your name before here in the stream, maybe you might be one of us. I don't know your story. Okay. So even as far back as the 1930s, Alcoholics Anonymous has been on the cusp of mental health awareness. And every once in a while, again, you have to remind the old timers. Old timers a little bit older than this old timer. And again, for those that do not know, when I say that I've gotten to be an old timer in Alcoholics Anonymous, I am 15 years without a drink or a drug, coming up on 16 years actually. I have My sober date is February 7th, 2006. I've not picked up an illicit drug. I've not, and I've not had a drop of alcohol since then. Okay. And I know many of you love to congratulate. Really quick, while we're on this subject, I want to kind of stress something. I know a lot of you will say, congratulations, you're such an inspiration, things like that. Folks, I want you to also understand, yes, I was willing to take what AA had to offer, okay? And I don't want, you guys to understand that, yes, I was willing. So in that regard, congratulations to me. Fine. And I did what was necessary for me to get sober. Congratulations to me on saving my own life. All right. But beyond that scope, the real credit goes to the members of Alcoholics Anonymous. It goes to my sponsor. The real credit goes to my higher power, who I understand but don't fully understand. Okay? That's where the real credit in all this should really belong. Okay? I want you all to understand that. All right? I want you all to fully understand that. Please, by no means, I mean, I appreciate the compliments and everything, but always give credit where credit is due. It was through an amazing program like Alcoholics Anonymous. It has been through wonderful folks in the program. It was through a higher power and a loving sponsor. And it's through folks like you that continue to help me stay sober today. So when I say to you all, the real credit belongs to all of you, I mean that. Okay? I can't do this alone. So without question, I want you all to understand that, that yes, I appreciate the congratulations and you're an inspiration and things like that. I do appreciate that. But don't forget to give credit where credit is due. It was through wonderful folks that helped me along the way. All I'm doing now is sharing that experience, strength, and hope today. Whether you too suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but if you have the capacity to be honest, your chances are as good as mine. Okay? So I'm saying to all of you out there, be real about this thing. Chemical dependency, alcoholism, drug addiction, problems with gambling, food addictions. My God, the list goes on of all the dependencies that are out there. Be honest, okay? I know after all this, the dear old Prince Magnum's probably going to, need more nuts and bolts tightened down, and it may even get to the point where I will be unable to work, and it'll be relying on, what tube and what money that I might make off of the Teespring store and everything else. What are you doing, sweetie? You are getting right in the way. You are so cute, though. I can't get mad at you. Oh, my goodness, you're so cute. We need another kitty cat therapy day, don't we? Don't we? We need to have another kitty cat therapy day. Play with Zelda. Folks, this is real. Okay, from the bottom of my heart. Kitty. Okay, really, this is not the right stream to really kind of go into it. This is really focused on talking about sobriety, but um, I will suggest going over the last 3 days of, the last few days of picking up the pieces. That's what they're definitely there for. We had to basically start talking about what has happened to my wife. Basically, she took off and she's not mentally well. Drug addiction and alcoholism have taken over. And a lot of uh, her mental issues were brought on by abusive parents. And at one point, her father did sexually assault her. I gave out names and in hopes that we can get the information out and hopefully we can get her the help that she needs. So I do suggest you go back, grab those streams, listen to them very closely, and share them out to everyone you know. I know currently, right now, one of them has climbed to over 1,000 views and is continuing to be shared across the world. Okay. We are trying to get, basically, my wife is unable to really make decisions on her own. That was why we mainly did this one, talking about the importance of understanding that mental health issues are real today. And sometimes they're coupled right up with chemical dependency. I hope that I've nailed this down, And there are some of us in Alcoholics Anonymous that do miss this boat. We do not read. Sometimes we forget to read the black part on the page. Yeah, so I definitely suggest that um, because my wife is unable to make these decisions herself right now. So because it's sober talk, we focus on mostly sobriety, but I wanted to focus on the fact, oh, that is so wonderful. That is so wonderful. Um, you'll have to, if you are a member of the program and you come into one of these live streams, please by all means share your sober date. How long have you been sober? Please share that with us. Share with us the day you got, your sober date. I got sober February 7th, 2006. So please share that with us at any time if you are one of us. It makes my day. It makes my day. And cute. Why is it? These are serious. This is serious stuff, man. For real. Come on. Come on, really. I mean, what kind of person? Just no. Go back. When do you think? Thank you, Zero. Hmm. Fair enough. Fair enough. You got me there. You just reminded me of an important spot in the book. Song, you just reminded me. Zero, we'll go easy on it. You just reminded me of something. You're right. You're absolutely right. You just reminded me of something. 19? Go back to that time. When do you think? Song, thank you for reminding me of a certain page here in the big book. Page 132. We have been speaking to you of serious, sometimes tragic things. We've been dealing with alcohol in its worst aspect, but we aren't a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. We try not to indulge in the cynicism over the state of the nations, nor do we carry the world's troubles on our shoulders. When we see a man sinking into the mire that is alcoholism, we give him first aid and place what we have at his disposal. For his sake, we do not recount and almost relive the horrors of our past. But those of us who have tried to shoulder the entire burden and troubles of others, we are soon overcome by them. So we think cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over seemingly tragic experience out of the past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered and have been given the power to help others. Thank you for reminding me of that song. I forgot there for a moment. Thank you. So even this old timer, this old big book thumper, sometimes forgets things in the book. And that's right next to the page I just read before. Thank you for that. I needed that. And I apologize. I am humbled by your insight. And I want to thank you for reminding us all the same thing. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I apologize for getting a little tight about it. Sometimes that happens to the best of us. And had a little buffer there. But thank you for reminding. Thank you for reminding me. Maybe you put that in there long gone. Me not to forget to laugh. Maybe like she asked you to put something in there that I might have put in there if this would have been a different time. Now that you've said that, maybe I need to tell a story. I remember back when I was with the mother of my son, Devin, and true story, true story. Uh, we're all sitting around, and sober man, uh, you know, my by then, my ex, fiance, she was my fiance at the time, started talking about some stuff that I had said, some very perverse stuff that I had said. And sober man, looks right at her and smiles really big and says, "Well, don't you know, some of us alcoholics found that there are certain things that we can do in sobriety as long as we have a willing partner or two." And just smiles at her. And she's like, "Oh my God." And, so, I mean, it's funny. We can all have a good laugh at that. I know everybody's probably, who's still with us right now is having a good laugh. And that just reminds that, so that's one of those great stories in sobriety. Uh, it's been a little while since I've told that story. Yeah, I had a little buffering over here. Had a little buffering over here. I'm not sure. I think there's a storm moving into the area. Oh, really quick, little kitty cat therapy for y'all. Zelda. Isn't she so pretty? You had to do a refresh. That's all good. So yeah. Oh, she's a super beautiful cat. Super beautiful. In all of this, I wanted to remind you all that, more than anything, mental health and alcoholism and drug addiction, they are real. Untreated, they can hurt us pretty badly, or in some cases, worse. So, if you suffer from any of these things, just know that you are welcome here on the Prince Magnum channel. Just know that nobody should ever ridicule you for having these problems. No one. I not only am I an alcoholic, and even though I've been in recovery for close to 16 years, even though I've been in recovery for a long time, I'm still an alcoholic. I'm always going to be one drink away from the man I used to be. But I will also tell you that I suffer from PTSD. And I have to rely on things that help me get through that PTSD. I am not exempt. Just because I'm sober doesn't mean that other things, that I don't still suffer from other disorders. I hope all of you got something out of this tonight. And I want to thank, well, there's actually a saying that once you take a cucumber, actually something that we say in AA, if you take a cucumber and you turn it into a pickle, you can never turn that pickle back into a cucumber. So in my case, the moment I pickled myself, I can never go back to being like everybody else. I hope all of you got something out of this tonight. I'm getting ready to wind it down because I know some of you out there are probably going to be going live. And I know you guys are, want to, maybe have me come along for the ride. And I enjoy it when you guys ask me to join your live streams. And I'm a guest there. It gives me some sort of comfort to know that people still want me to come along for the ride, despite everything that's been going on. I will tell you all that I spend a lot of time crying because I miss my wife and I worry about her. But it gives me a sense of maybe it's not going to be so bad when you guys say, come along for the ride, Prince Magnum. I want to thank you all for being here with me tonight. And I want to give a special to Song, who reminded me of something very important. I needed that. Thank you. Now that I've said that, thank you. Thank you for that, Zero. So now that I've said that, as we begin to let out this stream, I want to remind you all these two things. Give you guys this much. And it goes a little something like this. At day's end, I hope all of you need me as much as I need you. And if no one has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.